everyone. I hope you're all doing really well. My name is Sam Revel. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Wobblin Show, the NRL 2022 All-Stars edition. If I may, I'm just going to quickly deep dive into the chat. Mr. Jason Reader, thank you as always for joining, and Fanatics is in the chat. Thank you again for joining me. So tonight I'm going to be talking about the squads that have been released, and I've just sat on my backside for the past hour and a half configuring a top 18 team. I think the squads today were about 20 odd players, and I've narrowed it down to 18 in the formation that I would have it in. But before I do, I would like to sort of address some of the controversy that is surrounding Latrell Mitchell again, fair dinkum. So he was charged with a grade 2 careless, reckless high tackle on Joey Manu in that infamous match against East last year. And he was told not to play in the NRL All-Stars. That's not happening. And now he's been granted permission to play in the Charity Shield. Now, Latrell Mitchell is the face of the NRL All-Stars, in my opinion. Bigger than James Fisher-Harris, bigger than Ben-Hur. I think he is the face of this matchup, and forever will be as long as he's playing. And what's happened now, in doing my research, I want you guys to revert your memories back to the 2020 final series, and I want you to think of Parramatta. And Parramatta player Marata Niukure was suspended for a crusher tackle, just a grade 1, but a crusher tackle. That meant that he was going to be suspended for 2 games. So 1 week later, Parramatta host South Sydney in week 2 with the finals, and they lose. So that's 1 game off of Niukure's charge sheet. And then you go into the trials for 2021, and the very first game is against Penrith. Maybe it was the second, but in any event, the trial match against Penrith for Parramatta, Niukure played in that game. And then come round 1 of the 2021 NRL season, Niukure did not play. So for me personally, anyone that says that Latrell Mitchell should not be allowed to play in a trial game, no. Just by simply going off of that, and Marata Niukure is probably sitting at home watching me talking dribble, and he's falling off his chair. I'll call you a bit later, Niukure. Trust me. Latrell Mitchell has every right to play. Based off of all the history and the judicial charges, Latrell Mitchell is allowed to play in this Charity Shield, and I think the reason why he was told no is because no to the NRL All-Stars is because I think it's a bit too big of a stage and a bit too unsavory for a bloke that is only halfway through his suspension, a really nasty suspension at that too. So maybe what the NRL could have done better is, hey, Latrell, would you rather play in the Charity Shield or would you rather play in the NRL All-Stars? And I think 9.5 times out of 10, I think Latrell Mitchell definitely would have played in the All-Stars game and given the Charity Shield a miss. So that's just something that I thought was really interesting. I had a heated debate with a fellow online, and in doing my research, I discovered that Niukure was suspended, but he was allowed to play a trial game. You know what? Fair is fair in love and war, and I think Latrell Mitchell should definitely play in the Charity Shield, and he should have been playing in the NRL All-Stars. But I think the reason why he's not playing is because it might have just been a bit too unsavoury, him being the leader of the Indigenous All-Stars and knowing that he's got that charge on top of him. But that's just something that I wanted to put my 2 cents in. I haven't spoken about it online yet, and I just really wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. So in any event, Saturday, February 12th, the official kickoff to the NRL season from Bankwest Stadium, or CommBank Stadium as it's bloody known now, the NRL All-Stars game. Now, the NRL All-Stars has been a concept since 2010, and since 2019, it went through many iterations, but since 2019, it has been the Indigenous All-Stars versus the Maori All-Stars, and funnily enough, and awesomely enough too, both sides have had a win. And that third game, which only came last year, was a draw. So the winner of this game next Saturday night is going to take advantage whatever All-Stars team. And as I said at the top of the show, I sat down and I knuckled down what my 18 would be for either side. And just a quick shout out to Nick from Australia and All Out Champer. We did a stream a few hours ago on Nick from Australia's channel. Is a really good discussion, and I urge you all to go and check that out. And let me tell you, in the past couple of hours, I've changed my bloody mind as well, on a couple of points that I brought up in that show as well. Now, I would like to start very much with the NRL All-Stars, NRL Indigenous All-Stars. And this is my backline, guys. I choose Will Kennedy to be the fullback. I would have Josh Adokar and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow as a wing centre combo on one side of the paddock. And if both of them get free, no one's catching them. That's the craziest centre wing combo I think the game can provide. And I think it can happen, and it should happen in the next week or so at the All-Stars game. And the other wing centre combination as well is Katoni Staggs and Alex Johnston. I think those two would actually complement each other kind of well, actually. I think Katoni Staggs has some brute force, and whilst he got some silky skills, I think AJ, I think we all like AJ and how he goes. And my halves pairing for the Indigenous All-Stars team, Nico Hines and Braden Trindle. And as you can see there, well, sort of, Nico Hines, he's with Cronulla, and he's going to be partnering Braden Trindle at some stage throughout 2022. On the big stage, maybe the biggest stage Braden Trindle's ever played on, get these two working together and get something big out of the way, and also include that with Will Kennedy. The Cronulla Sharks get a trial on top of a trial sort of thing, an advantage, if you will, if you guys catch my drift. It's a good early time for them to be working on combinations. So I think that's a bit of an advantage to the Indigenous side. And I'd like to move into the forward pack. And this is my forward pack. I'd have Josh Kerr and Ryan James as the openers. And then I'd have Ruben Cotter as me dummy half. And then in the back row, Josh Curran and David Fafita as my starting second rowers. And I'd have Jack Bird in at the lock position. And in that conversation that I had with Nick from Australia and Champa earlier, the Savo, I sort of suggested second row for Jack Bird, maybe even centres. But Nick, I thought about it and I've come around to it. I think Jack Bird in at lock is just a point of difference as well. He's just not going to be a straight running forward. I think Jack Bird in at lock, partnering David Fafita, partnering Will Kennedy, and just providing that X factor in the forwards as well, I think would be a marvellous decision from the Indigenous All-Stars coach, Laurie Daly. I'd just like to deep dive into the chat again. Warriors NRL fanatics, g'day, mate. Bring on the season. CJ Moxley says, of course, bro, of course. And who you're backing? You're going to be backing your Indigenous lads. Warriors NRL fanatics, go the Murray. I hope I said that correctly. And CJ Moxley, man, the dog in the back. Well, yeah, she's all right. If she starts barking, I'll put her on the catapult, figuratively speaking. So that was my forward pack. I've discussed my backline as well. And this is my bench, including the 18th man, just to help Ruben Cotter. I should say this. Ruben Cotter can be an 80 to 70 minute player. And just for it, knowing that it's a trial, just for a bit of a rest, I'd bring on Will Smith just as a dummy half option. Andrew Fafita, and as another point Nick from Australia said earlier, the Savo, it would be amazing to see Andrew Fafita back in the game playing. And I think he will be selected to play in this game next week. And I hope he goes. Hope he goes gangbusters. And Tyrell Fuimaono and Jermaine Tanua-Brown are also the interchange props. And the reason why I got Jesse Ramey in there, and look, all this can change, right? Obviously, and this is just my opinion. This is how I do things. But it seems like over the past couple of years since Laurie Daly has been coach, Jesse Ramian has been his centre. I think Daly does like Ramian quite a fair bit, but I do think Mr. Jesse Ramian's form has dipped a cog or two over the past season or 18 months or so. And I think whilst a hooking option is obviously not what Jesse Ramian could do, I think if a backline player or if a second row or even at a pinch, a lock position, if someone gets injured during the game, I think Jesse Ramian could easily cover for it as well. And so that's my NRL Indigenous All Stars team. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comments, please, guys. I'd love to hear your opinions on that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. Cool. But these are just my opinions, and I'll move on to the Maori side. But before I do, I'll just quickly say g'day. And that's the point. That's my point, CJ. You've beaten me to the bloody mark, young man. The Indigenous All Stars backline is indeed nuts, mate. It's crazy. And mate, AJ and Adokar on the same edge. Yep. Well, no. I did say Adokar and Johnson would be on opposite sides of the paddock. Hammer and Katoni Staggs, I think they'd be better suited to be centres in this game and complement Adokar. Hammer for Adokar and Staggs for Mr. Johnston as well. But without further ado, let's move into the Maori All-Stars team. And this is my Maori backline. In at fullback, Dylan Walker. And one side of the paddock as a centre wing combination, I'd have Patrick Herbert and Jordan Rapiner. And on the other side of the paddock, I have Morgan Harper and Remus Smith, with Remus Smith being the winger and Jordan Rapiner being the winger on the other side. And the halves pairing is Cody Nikarima and Chanel Harris-Tavita. And look, I thought a little bit earlier today that Dylan Walker could have been a good 14 option, but the Maori side is lacking just a bit of spark, a little bit of X factor. And I thought about chucking Jordan Marpiner in at fullback and having Dylan Walker come off the bench in jersey number 14, which he was so good for Manly for in the 2021 season. But there's really not a whole lot of depth or a lot of good X factor depth in the back line for that Maori side. And I think whilst some pundits out there would look at that and go, oh, I probably moved the chess piece to here and there and whatnot. That's just how I do it. I think Dylan Walker is the best option at fullback because if I go back to the thumbnail, guys, besides Jordan Rapiner, there's no other real option for fullback. And Dylan Walker, whilst he was good at 14, he can play anywhere. So I'd have Dylan Walker in at fullback. And the Warriors halves pairing are going to be leading the Maori side next Saturday. And it'll be good to see Chanel Harris-Tavita get onto the paddock and sort of try to remind Nathan Brown that I'm still here. I still want to play some really good footy. And I'm going to try everything I can to get on the field in front of either Ash Taylor or Sean Johnson sort of thing. So I like Chanel Harris-Tavita as a player, and I hope he has a really good game in the next week or so. And Warriors Fanatics says Maori forward pack is better while the Indigenous have the better back line. Okay. And yeah, dude, it is a shame. It is a total shame that Cody Walker cannot play. And I'll get to something on that in a minute. And just one more thing from CJ. I have a feeling Nikarima will be in the halves. And yeah, I mean, you and I obviously on the same page there, bro, which is great, which is good. I'm sweating bullets here, fair income. So I'll move into the forward pack now for the Maori All-Stars. This is my Maori All-Star team. Pasami Solo. Now, if you don't know who Pasami Solo is, he made his debut last year, I believe, in Wagga Wagga. If I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong about that. But he's a young man. He's actually been in the the Maori All-Stars camp for a couple of seasons now. And I say start him. I say get the young man on the jetpack and get him going to start this game, man. Because your captain for the side, James Fisher-Harris, will help you out if you need it there. So I'd go Solo and James Fisher-Harris as my props. I'd go Aaron Clark in at dummy half because there really isn't any other option for the dummy half role in the Maori side. And for the back line, I'd go Britton Nakora and Kenny Bromwich, who had an outstanding season last year as the second row pairing. And I'd go Joseph Tarpany in that lock. I think I believe that's self-explanatory with the back line. It's just a point of preference as well, because there are players on the bench that I believe some players would probably interchange for a starting spot. And here they are. This is my Maori interchange bench. Jazz Tavanga, the reason why I've chosen Jazz Tavanga is while he's a lock, in my opinion, he does have some hooking experience. And I believe Aaron Clark would probably need a breather halfway through the game. So Jazz Tavanga comes on as just a point of reference, but he's not a hooker, in my opinion. And then the other forwards, Kevin Proctor, Royce Hunt, and TC Robate. And Royce Hunt and TC Robate, man, they'd be chomping at the bit to get out there. They're a couple of two young bulls that'll be chomping at the bit. And my 18th man is Jaden Nikorima, who's sort of a 5'8" halfback sort of player, and he'd be a backup for an injury if something were to happen to a player in the back line, or even a hooking position as well. So those are my that's how I would have formed both sides coming into next week. And something really interesting as well, right? So these are the players from either side that could have been playing, and they have played in the years previously. So I just want to rattle off some names to you. I don't have any graphics. I just want to rattle off some names to you. For the Indigenous side, players missing: Cody Walker, Jack Whiten, Latrell Mitchell, Wade Graham, Connor Watson, Jamal Fogarty, and Corey Thompson. And Corey Thompson and Jamal Fogarty were only in that side for the Indigenous All-Stars only last season. And if only half of those players pulled on a jersey for him next week, I mean, it makes their their back line a whole lot crazier as well. And for the Maori side, I think they've been more hit by absences or injury or the like. So you've got Kalen Ponga, DWZ, Dallin Watine Zelezniak, Joey Manu, Jerome Luai, Benji Marshall was there last year. And you've got Jeremy Marshall King, Brandon Smith, who had an absolute blinder in the 2020 game. One of the best individual performances I've seen over the past couple of seasons. And Chance Nickel-Klokstad as well will also be missing for the Maori All-Stars side as well. So there's a lot of talent sitting on the sideline for this one. But that doesn't mean that this match isn't going to be any more emotional, any more wanted for victory. As we said in Nick from Australia's live stream just a few hours ago, if you think that this is just a trial, just a pre-season friendly, no, it's not. I genuinely think that this is their origin. Some players have said that this is their origin, and whilst it's not on that level for me, yeah, I think we're going to be in for a good game at CommBank Stadium next Saturday night. And just as well, just while I'm thinking about it on the top of my head too, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 odd Maori players to make their debut for the side. And for the Indigenous All-Stars team, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's going to be 5 debutants to make their debut for the Indigenous All-Stars. And I'll just quickly deep dive into the chat. Hey, National Sports Loaded, how are you, man? Do you guys think Rapinoe will start at fullback? National Sports Loaded, that was my original thought, man. Over the past couple of hours, I've sort of sat and stewed on it. And I think Dylan Walker would be a much better, safer option at fullback over Mr. Jordan Rapinoe. But I totally get what you mean, man, if that's your port of call, bro. And that's another thing too. So in my 17-18 team, Mr. Selwyn Cobbo, he doesn't make it into my 17-18 team because that back line is just so intense. It is that skilled. But if I hope he's chosen as 18th man. I hope somehow gets onto the field anyway, mate, and shows us what he really is capable of. And National, I can't wait to thank you, dude. Thank you very much for the compliment. And let's bring on the footy. And Proenzo Vids, hey man, thank you so much for tuning in, dude. Guys, that's it. This has just been the Wobblin Draw show. I wanted to come on here and talk about the NRL All-Stars because the news came out yesterday that news would be dropping today on these squads, and I thought I'd do a Wobblin Draw show to talk about it. If you guys agree, disagree, please let me know in the chat. If you want to leave your team into the chat as well, please do so. I hope I've convinced a brand new viewer out there, if you're watching, to consider liking and subscribing to the content and to the channel. And guys, thank you so much for your support. It really, really bloody means a lot. Thank you, everybody, and take care. Adios.